Seven parts have been released over the past 6 years. 3 remakes with 2 original stories games, and 2 spin-offs that are not so bad. So for this moment we are thinking why the game is still alive, because the Metacritic saying that different words about it. I think the answer is in the game of 2017, Resident Evil 7. But let's remind how the first game came out. The original game came out in 1996. It was the first game in the survival horror style. Like in these games we have to save everything just to kill monsters around us. Then we can remember like games like Silent Hill, Dead Space in the future, and plenty of this. So in all rooms we have different positions of fixed camera that we are used to play, and it was so creepy. But for this time the other companies start creating the games like this, and it was the problem. So the Resident 1, Resident 2 and Resident 3 had the same problem with camera, unless Resident 4. So starting from the Resident Evil 4, it was one of the best games that I ever played because it changed fully. So at all, it was plenty of innovations like action with elements of horror. It was perfect actually. Now we can come to the zombie and finish them like in Mortal Kombat. And absolutely, we're making the fatality. It was perfect. It's made an innovation in all the games around the Resident Evil. Now it's becoming the Dead Space that I watched there actually, but it was also not so bad. Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 made the same, but it was much better for sure because of graphics. MT framework made this job and it was good. So now we came to the next step. What should we do? How should we innovate our game? And there is the common idea that the Resident Evil 7 will not be so much successful like this game, like Resident Evil 4, where is the zombie much faster and much more action came to us. So what should we do? I will tell you. To create new game, absolutely new game, Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 is the bullshit game that I ever tried in my life. Why are you saying like this? So actually when I'm watching the comedy movies, I will judge it by the jokes, and if I don't like it or it will not make me laugh for a little bit, then I will say that the movie is the bullshit thing that I have seen. And the same applies to the horror games. If the horror game will not scare me, absolutely I will say it's a bullshit. It's a bullshit. Full bullshit. And trust me, these eyes saw too much things. I can't say anything else. It's the bullshit game that I ever played.
Look, I really need you to fuck my sister.
And the first thing that I have to say about the Resident Evil, that I played all parts. For sure, not all the parts I played by myself, because my older brother had this experience, and first 2 parts and just watching. But after Resident Evil 4, I touched gamepad for the first time, and you know, it was the best experience in my life. That's why I do not understand why the Resident Evil 7 have the same name as previous games. Where is fucking Leon? Where is fucking everything? I don't know actually. So the new part came out as the mix of bullshit of Last of Us, of PT, which was the perfect game actually, of the Screamers, and that was one game. And I think, first of all, I thought it's just a spin-off, but when I played it, oh goodness, it's Resident Evil. Fuck, how is it possible? You know, the main thing that if we will give this game for some not experienced player and show him, for example, Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 4, 5, 6, and after you will show him 7, he will say that Resident Evil 7, it's not Resident Evil, because it's have nothing common with the previous parts. And you know, he will be right because this fucking game changed fully. The main part that some other games that are changing, they will try to make something new, they will make some adjustment for the new players. At the same time, they will try to hold their previous fans like before to keep playing it. It's not about Resident Evil 7. For 10 hours of gameplay, I have never been scared. And it's not because of I am fearless transformer who doesn't give a shit. No fucking Bumblebee. But I am real kick. I was afraid to play a lot of games. So now we have to talk how game trying to scare us, and there is 3 ways. The first, and its own price, because it's very expensive. The second is something jumping out at us, and third is just music of string instruments that grows in sound. The darkness from which someone climbs is no longer scary. This is routine for such games. The money I paid for this game could have gone for something better, I believe. The task of the developers was to create something new. They took a mix of horrors, put it together in one game and released it under the covers of legendary game, so that it would sell better. Well, you're nuts. And you know, I'm tired of listing the games that were taken into account by Capcom. That, for example, this game has sounds from PT, narrow corridors from the Alien Isolation, and even a whole character from the Soul. Fuck. And this is the mix of all games. No, it's not. It's a full game. I can't understand. And this is... And you know, main thing that they took all the worstest things from the other horrors. And why it's called Resident Evil. Where is all the characters? Where is Chris? Where is Jill? Where is Leon? Oh, I can't understand why how they can compare this part to the old Resident Evils. I just do not understand. So, how they can take the favorite franchise of the millions and fuck it in the ass. Now, considering the history of the new part, everything comes down to mysticism and a logical story. It all starts with something unclear, ends with something unclear, and the main character is nobody who is running after some bitch. Nothing is clear, actually. The idea was to appeal to players who were younger than the old fans of the series. And you know, the developers succeeded and at the same time pissed off the old fans of the series. Battles with bosses in this game. This is the Elden Ring for children with health problems, actually with disabilities. It's boring, obvious and very easy. You don't have any pleasure in defeating them and fighting them. And at the same time, the game is so linear. So if you cut off an arm or a leg, they will sew it back on. For example, you have one boss which dies only from the soul that only he can open and you have to wait for it. So let's try to deviate from the fact that this game is related to the franchise. Then you can play it once, but you will not be scared if you have never played a horror game. And yes, it's not a bad shooter. It's worth trying out.